Mom had already set the table when I came upstairs. A plate with toast and eggs, perfectly cooked, with a small dish of hot sauce on the side. She used to do this for me back in high school, before early welding practice. For a moment, I allowed myself to believe it meant something. "I'll be gone just 2 days," I said as I sat down across from her. "Just a maintenance contract at the mill in Brookings, but the new job starts Monday." She nodded slowly, stirring her coffee. "That's great, honey," she replied. It felt like an automatic response, not a genuine reaction. Her eyes remained on the phone beside her, even as I smiled. "I know it's not as big as Morocco's, but it's solid pay," I continued. "Full-time benefits. I'll finally be able to pay off the last of what I owe you." Still no eye contact, just a distracted hum. She typed something on her phone and angled the screen away from me. I focused on my eggs. "Don't make it awkward," I told myself. She let me stay when I needed it. She didn't have to. When I stood to rinse my plate, she finally looked up and said, "Drive safe." "I will," I replied. She kissed my cheek quickly and pulled me into a half-hug, like we were putting on a show for someone who wasn't there. Then she went back to her phone. The morning sun stretched long shadows as I walked to my car. My duffel bag, weighted down with welding gear, clinked. I placed it in the trunk as if I were packing for a fresh start. As I pulled out of the driveway, I glanced back and saw the curtains shift. Just a sliver, just enough. I turned onto our street earlier than planned, about 6:32 hours ahead. The job wrapped up faster than expected, and I was eager to get to bed. My hands still carried the smell of hot steel and burnt rubber, a grounding scent I knew well. But as I slowed in front of the house, I saw them. Black garbage bags, dozens of them, lined the front lawn. Some had torn open, spilling socks, sweaters, notebooks, even my welding gloves onto the patchy grass near the gate. My duffel bag sat upright, as if thrown and landed wrong. My gaming monitor leaned crooked against the mailbox, exposed and unwrapped, standing just beyond the bags. My mom stood there, holding her phone like she was filming a cooking demo. Next to her, Noelle had her arms stretched out in selfie mode, broadcasting the whole spectacle. I could hear her before I even got out of the car. And here she is, back from another business trip, still owing $8,000 in rent. Watch closely, folks. This is what entitlement looks like. Griffin paced like a bouncer with no place to go. When he saw me approaching, he smirked, walked over to one of the bags, and kicked it hard enough to send my books skidding into the dirt. "Finally," he muttered. "The family freeloader is out for good." I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. My chest tightened, as if all the air had been drained from my lungs. My mom raised her phone again, her voice smooth and rehearsed. "Callista Run, 29, living in my basement for months, like a parasite. No more. This is your eviction notice. Public and permanent." Some neighbors stood frozen on their porches. Mrs. Valen across the street held her dog leash with both hands, her expression unreadable. Mr. Linton filmed from behind a bush. No one moved. No one said anything. I bent down slowly, picking up a hardcover that had slid from my bag. The cover was bent, but I straightened it and set it aside. I picked up the next item. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just kept loading my car, piece by piece, while Noelle's voice continued narrating behind me, as if it were her job. I closed the trunk gently and turned around one last time. They were still filming, still grinning. "Enjoy the show," I said quietly. "You'll be hearing from me soon." Just as I closed the back door of my car, I heard the porch door slam open. My dad marched down the steps, his face flushed, jaw clenched. Without a word, he flung a set of keys at me. They hit my cheek with a dull thud and landed in the gravel. "Take your junk and get out," he barked. "You're not our daughter anymore. Real adults don't mooch off their parents at your age." I blinked, rubbing the spot where the keys had struck, then bent down to pick them up. I didn't flinch, not in front of him. He stood there, arms crossed, waiting for me to have some dramatic meltdown. Noelle aimed her camera for a better shot. Griffin paced again, grinning like this was a game he'd already won. I opened the driver's side door, climbed in, and shut it quietly. Before starting the engine, I looked through the window at all three of them. My mom, rehearsed and indifferent. Noelle, feigning disgust. Griffin with his practiced cruelty. And my dad. He didn't break eye contact, but something flickered in his eyes, maybe confusion, when I didn't look away. I turned the key and pulled away slowly, not looking back. I drove aimlessly for a while, the familiar streets of the neighborhood blurring into each other. At some point, I ended up in the grocery store parking lot. Headlights off, engine running, just sitting there with both hands on the wheel. It wasn't until I reached Elena's apartment, the porch light still on, that I remembered the envelope. It had been sitting at the bottom of my filing bin for over a year. Thick paper, no return address, just my name and my grandfather's unmistakable handwriting. He'd given it to me at the hospital a few weeks before he passed. He'd said, "Don't open it unless things get bad." I never imagined I'd need to do this, but now every instinct told me to open it. I set my overnight bag down, retrieved the envelope from the side pocket, and placed it across my lap. Lena made tea and set it on the table next to me before quietly retreating to her room without a word. She knew I would speak when I was ready. I sat, staring at the envelope for what felt like an eternity before I opened it. The flap lifted effortlessly, almost as if it had been waiting for this moment. Inside, there was a folded letter, several notarized documents, and a business card from a downtown law firm. The letter was handwritten in shorthand. "Callista, if you're reading this, it means they've done what I feared. I couldn't shield you from them while I was alive, so I'm doing it now. I've transferred part of the house, the lake cabin, and the shop building into your name. It's all official and documented. You owe them nothing. No apologies, no silence, no guilt. This is for when they forget your worth, Grandpa." The room blurred, my fingers trembling, not from sorrow, but from something sharper, like clarity. The documents confirmed it all. A living trust. My name appeared beside percentages: 40% of the family home, 50% of a lake cabin in Couse County, and 35% of the commercial building where my dad's business operated on Riverdale Street. The business card read, "Arthur Dorsey Estate and Property Law." The next morning I called. The receptionist hesitated until I mentioned my grandfather's name, then offered me a last-minute appointment that afternoon. Mr. Dorsey's office was in an old stone building near the university, furnished with mahogany and lined with shelves of legal books. He remembered me immediately. "You used to accompany him to meetings," he said. "Always brought that little red sketchbook." I nodded. He examined the documents with a careful precision only years of experience could cultivate. When he finally looked up, his face gave nothing away, but his voice was firm. "It's all valid. The trust was finalized before your grandfather passed. They cannot legally remove you, sell without your approval, or claim ignorance. If they've been collecting rent or taking loans against any of these properties, they may have a bigger issue than they realize." I leaned back, my heart still racing. "I'm ready to proceed," I said. He leaned forward slightly. "Then let's begin." That night, the first message came. "Noel, 8:47 p.m. Hey, hope you're not mad. The stream wasn't meant to embarrass you. It's just content. You know how the algorithm works." I didn't reply. By morning, there were 12 more messages, 2 missed calls from Mom, and a voicemail from Griffin. "You're overreacting. It wasn't even that serious. You know how she gets. Just come back and talk like an adult." I forwarded everything to Mr. Dorsey. By midday, Dad's number appeared on my screen. "Dad, 1:14 p.m. We need you to sign a few things. No drama, just paperwork, no explanation, no apology, just instructions like I was an employee who missed a deadline." Mr. Dorsey replied on my behalf with a brief formal notice that all future communication should go through his office, CCing their family lawyer. I turned off the read receipts and let the silence speak for itself. The next few hours passed as I organized the few belongings I had saved. Lena had cleared a shelf for me, and I placed my books there. Less than half my collection, but enough. I folded the clean clothes, set the monitor carefully on the desk, and stared at the dent in its frame. Then I picked up a pen. It had been years since I'd kept a journal, but that night I opened a blank notebook and wrote one line. They only listened when I stopped explaining. After that, the words came easier. Observations, not anger or revenge, but realizations. What I saw in their eyes, what I didn't see in their hearts, what I had mistaken for safety, and what I would never unsee again. By the time I closed the journal, my phone was still buzzing every few minutes. Noelle's voice memos. Griffin's passive-aggressive guilt. Dad's demands. I turned the phone face down and let it vibrate into the mattress. They were loud, as they always were. But this time, my silence spoke louder than their shouts ever could. 2 days later, Mr. Dorsey called. His voice was calm but crisp. "We've reviewed the income history on the properties," he said. "Your parents and brother have been collecting rent from the lake cabin and the commercial building. None of it disclosed to you." I closed my eyes. "How much?" "Just over $50,000. 3 years of tenant payments." "Your share wasn't even acknowledged," he said. He said it like it was a mere clerical error, but we both knew better. By the end of the day, certified letters had been sent to the family's legal representative, outlining the exact amount owed and my ownership percentages. Mr. Dorsey had also contacted the banks involved with the business loans tied to the commercial property. If they had approved financing without all stakeholders' signatures, they were at risk too. The silence that followed felt different this time. Not stunned, not wounded, but calculating. 3 days later, Griffin showed up at my new job. It was a quiet Tuesday afternoon. I had just clocked out for lunch and was heading to the back parking lot when I saw him leaning against my car, arms folded, phone in hand. I kept walking, didn't stop. "Callista," he said, his tone too casual. "Got a minute?" I kept the keys tightly in my grip, ready. He stepped into my path. "We need to talk." I looked him straight in the eye. "You're trespassing. Move." He leaned in, voice tight. "You're tearing the family apart over some technicality. That money wasn't yours. You want to play this lawyer game? Fine, but it won't end the way you think." I didn't flinch. "Step away from my car." A couple of coworkers appeared by the exit, one of them calling out my name. Griffin turned to look, then stepped back, muttering something under his breath. "I won't say it again," I said, pulling out my phone. "This is harassment. You need to leave." Security met me at the door a few minutes later. By then, he was already gone. Back inside, I filed an incident report with the front office and sent the footage from the parking lot camera to Mr. Dorsey. He replied within the hour. Noted and logged. Proceeding as discussed. They had made the first move. Now they would learn what it felt like to play defense. They came on a Thursday evening. After the sun dipped below the horizon, I heard the knock first, sharp and impatient, followed by voices, far too many of them. I made my way to the door, but didn't open it. The feed from the security camera on my phone confirmed what I already suspected. All 4 of them were there. My mom, clutching a tissue. My dad with his arms crossed and jaw clenched. Griffin leaning against the wall like he didn't have time for this. And Noelle, standing off to the side. Half watching the door and half scrolling through her phone. "Callista." My mom called out, her voice wavering. "Please, honey, we just want to talk. This has all gone too far." Dad stepped forward, knocking again. "Open the door. You're acting like a child." Behind them, I could barely hear Griffin muttering something under his breath, and Noelle didn't even look up. I stayed silent for a while, letting the discomfort hang in the air. I wanted them to feel it. Dad knocked again, this time harder. "We are your family. You can't just shut us out over some paperwork." I spoke clearly, making sure the mic picked it up. "All future communication goes through Mr. Dorsey. You've already been informed of this." There was a pause, like they hadn't expected me to respond at all. Mom's voice broke through again, softer this time. "You don't have to do this. We can work it out, just the 5 of us. We'll delete the videos. We'll fix everything." From the camera feed, I saw Noelle glance at her phone, then quickly tuck it behind her back. She wasn't here for peace. She was here for content. "I'm not discussing anything without legal representation," I said. "If you remain here, I'll contact building security." Dad's face darkened. "So you're hiding behind lawyers now? You told me I wasn't your father. Remember?" Griffin looked away, and Noelle began typing something. Mom wiped at her eyes, seemingly out of words. They stood there for another minute, then left without another word. Once the hallway was empty, I locked the deadbolt and opened my laptop. Mr. Dorsey had just emailed me a new file titled, Settlement negotiation. Initial draft. 2 days later, their lawyer sent a proposal. They would transfer full ownership of the lake cabin to me, as long as I agreed to waive any claims on back rent or future income from the commercial building. Mr. Dorsey didn't waste a second. He replied, rejecting their offer and restating our original terms. The cabin was worth less than a third of what I was owed. They thought I'd take the bait, give them a way out in exchange for peace and a token gesture. But I wasn't interested in tokens. I wanted acknowledgement. The next morning, I met with Mr. Dorsey and outlined my demands. A formal payment plan for the unpaid rent, a third-party property management company to handle all future income, and a written admission of financial misrepresentation. I want it in writing, I told him, and I want it signed. He nodded once. Then that's what we'll demand. While negotiations dragged on, cracks began to show. Noelle lost over 5,000 followers in a week. Someone from high school had recognized me in her stream and started posting receipts. A few of her sponsors dropped her, and she deleted the eviction video. But the internet doesn't forget. Dad's business wasn't immune either. One of his clients saw the clip and decided not to move forward with their project. Then a loan application got flagged. When the banks reviewed ownership documents, the trust surfaced. Mom stopped texting. Griffin sent a single angry email, which Mr. Dorsey forwarded without comment. Noelle tried calling twice, but I didn't pick up. When their lawyer finally responded, the tone had shifted. Less aggressive, more careful. They agreed to everything: monthly payments, third-party oversight, and a written acknowledgement signed by all four of them. I read the document twice before signing. Just above my name, I added my own line. Truth isn't betrayal. It's what happens when the performance ends. I sent it back and waited. The final part hadn't occurred yet. They still had one last thing to do. The apartment was small, but it was mine. 1 bedroom, uneven floorboards, and a draft in the kitchen window that whistled when the wind picked up. But the lease was in my name, and the first month's rent came straight from my paycheck at the new welding job. No shared spaces, no borrowed time, no one filming at the door. 2 days after I moved in, the envelope arrived, a check. The first installment of the back rent they owed. Paperclipped to it was a folded note, written in my mom's handwriting. We hope we can put this behind us and be a family again. Love, Mom. I stared at it for a long time. Not because it moved me, but because of how much it didn't. There was no apology, no ownership. Just hope that I'd forget what it cost me to finally be left alone. I placed the check in my drawer. I didn't reply. That night, while unpacking the last box, I found my old external drive. I plugged it in out of habit, scanning the folder labels, college papers, photos, invoices, and then Grandpa wave. I clicked play. Hey kiddo. If you're hearing this, I guess I'm not around anymore. But I want you to remember something. You're going to be okay. Even if they never say they're sorry. Some people only value you when they can use you. And when you stop letting them, they call it betrayal. Let them. You just keep being you. I sat there for a while, letting his voice fill the room. No more shouting. No more silence to weaponize. Just his steady warmth. Echoing through a borrowed speaker in a place that belonged only to me. I pressed save, backed up the file, and placed the drive in the drawer next to the rest.